Kundalini Yoga. It's a pretty charged word, and you can find a lot of videos about it here on YouTube and all over the internet. Kundalini Awakening has so many connotations to it, and oftentimes can derive a sense of something happening to you or something being done to you. So what is Kundalini Yoga, and where does it come from, and what does it do for you? That's what we're going to talk about today. I'd like to share with you my journey with Kundalini Yoga, my experience with Yogi Bhajan style of Kundalini Yoga, and Kundalini Yoga that's called Sattva Kundalini Yoga, and address some of the elements that often gets denoted with Kundalini Yoga about it being done to you and having your Kundalini awakened. So as part of that, let me give you a little backdrop and share with you a little bit about my journey and my background in how I was educated and trained and how I practice it. Back in 2003, when I was going through a big change, was exploring different avenues. I had been practicing yoga, hatha yoga at a community college, and it was amazing. It was really kind of like the first time I felt myself be able to be in my body and be more conscious and present in my body and really access my breath in a way that I had never done before. So for me, I'm so eternally grateful for community college and the classes that they were offering and my hatha teacher at the time. And then that led me to an Iyengar class and my Iyengar journey. And I spent many years as an Iyengar student with a great teacher and friend of mine. And that really empowered me in my posture, again, empowered me in my breath, empowered me in being embodied in my body. And I certainly gained tons of benefits from that. And then that's when my life went through a big change, and I kind of left everything that was familiar and went into new avenues and got involved in a spiritual community in the area that I had moved to. And there was a yoga studio that was offering free week with multiple different types of yoga classes, and so I saw on the schedule this thing called Kundalini Yoga. And the receptionist was highly recommending it and saying, definitely try it, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to go ahead and do it. And I took my first class. And the teacher was the sweetest teacher ever, petite little girl, full of enthusiasm. I did this class, we did the weirdest things, the weirdest breath practices. We did these chants that I was not familiar with, had no idea about. And we did all these kinds of active movements, and it all was really strange, but I felt amazing afterwards. And I really felt like I'd really been in a state of depression and confusion and feeling really kind of lost and searching, and I just felt something shift. So I decided at that point, I got to give this more a try. And I continued to go to classes with her. I took lots of workshops that she did. She lived in Laguna Beach. And at the time I was also preparing to travel, my first sacred venture, my first sacred journey, a personal pilgrimage to Crete, to the Neolithic goddess civilization, really important journey for me. Was so grateful to have this new practice because it really empowered me for that journey, and I started to incorporate some of the things that I was learning in class in my personal practice. Flash forward, I got back, continued to do classes with her, and I definitely felt kind of the heaviness of my years in therapy and all kind of my past traumas begin to lift, really. I had to move. I left the location that I was at, and there weren't classes where I was going for Kundalini Yoga. I continued my yoga journey. I mean, I've been practicing yoga since my early 30s, consistently and regularly. And at the same time that Kundalini Yoga came into my life, back in the area that I was living, Reiki came into my life. When I moved to this new location, that's when I was really introduced to Reiki and actually began to take my training in Reiki and continue to do my yoga, but more hatha, flow. As I was beginning to practice Reiki and seeing clients, and then that eventually led to my teaching Reiki, Was living in an area that was full of different yoga studios, and I kept hearing Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini Yoga. So I began to research in the area, and I found a teacher in the Taoist center. It was kind of an acupuncture Chinese medicine center, and he was teaching Kundalini Yoga classes, and I was so excited. I took my partner and now my husband, and we took our first class with him. We both loved it, and from that point on we went to a class every week with this guy, and it was amazing. He eventually left and found out that Yoga Works, which is a chain in the United States that was at the time very popular, was teaching Kundalini Yoga, and it was with Kia Miller, and she's an amazing teacher. Highly recommend looking her up. And so we started taking classes with her every week, and we loved it. And I ended up doing a cleanse journey with her, and it was a combination of changing your food and liquid cleanse with Kundalini Yoga. It was amazing, and I met this wonderful friend of mine, one of my besties there. We so hit it off and supported each other, and she told me about Kundalini Yoga Studio further east, which is where Kundalini Yoga was first introduced to Los Angeles and to the United States, as it's commonly known, through the line of Yogi Bhajan. So apparently it was the studio where Yogi Bhajan taught, where they're currently having teachers trainings. I took a class and I loved it. I loved the setting. The studio was always so incredibly peaceful. Just felt like you were in India. I loved everything about it, and I was really intrigued, and the class was really great too. And then I kept going there and taking classes. I had at that point started Kundalini Yoga about 10 years, and I was very devoted to my practice, and I developed my own personal practice. In those 10 years, I really had a little awakening around having a regular daily practice, and I incorporated Reiki, meditation, and Kundalini Yoga, as well as restorative and Hatha Yoga into my daily practice. And honestly, for me, it was transformative and a life changer. The combination of Reiki and Kundalini Yoga at the time that was incorporated in my life were incredible blessings. I felt a physiological change. I also felt a spiritual shift, and I felt much more successful and vibrant in my life. And my life also began to move more on purpose. So my practice, my Reiki practice, really flourished. I was also a licensed massage therapist at the time, and I began to start leading retreats, and so that was slowly evolving. And in 2012, end of 2012, I keep hearing about this Kundalini Yoga teachers training, and I'm thinking to myself, I've done so many trainings. Do I really want to take another training? And I really was never thinking of offering it to my clients, and I really was just wanting it for myself, and I thought maybe it would just deepen my own practice. So I spoke to my husband about it, and we both kind of felt like it would probably be very positive. So I did my Kundalini Yoga teachers training in 2013 in Los Angeles at the studio at Yoga West. It was 9 months of intensity. Some parts of it I don't agree with. It was really powerful, transformative, and many of us in the training confronted the lead teachers about Yogi Bhajan, about some of the ethics, about some of the things that we were hearing that were promiscuous and were abusive. It was really great. Our class was very powerful and strong in addressing it and really bringing it out. And what we all really felt was some of the origins of this practice are twisted, and some of the elements of it are twisted, but the practice itself has been transformative in the majority of our lives. I mean, all of us have been completely shifted through this practice. Training, it catapulted my work to even a greater degree. My Reiki practice took on a greater level of vibrancy and offerings and service, and wonderful opportunities started to come into my life, and it was really quite fantastic, honestly. And I began to lead more sacred journeys, and it led to leading a sacred journey in Japan, and also then to Ireland, and on and on and on. I incorporated Kundalini Yoga in all of my sacred journeys. I began to offer Kundalini Yoga and Reiki workshops, which was rather new in Los Angeles. I also began to offer restorative yoga and Reiki workshops in Los Angeles. And I just felt in such great service. I was so nourished and uplifted through the whole process. I felt like so many people benefited and I was benefiting. And I really loved it all. It was quite amazing. And what I found for myself with my personal Kundalini Yoga practice as I taught, my personal practice never ever failed. I was devoted to my practice, and it was the backbone to my life. It was the backbone to my moving through the challenges of being a provider, moving through the challenges of family life and the dynamics of that. My daily practice, as well as my continued receiving classes from other practitioners and other teachers, really was the backbone to everything. So it's very much part of my teaching, and what I feel very passionate about is a Kundalini awakening is something that happens through your own practice, through your own connection. It's not something that somebody else does to you. Of course, we can be in settings, we can be around teachers, and that can activate and awaken us to a greater degree, but the sustaining of it is our own foundation, our own commitment, our own consistency. That's a true Kundalini awakening. Yeah. So yes, of course, we have different teachers that are more elevated in consciousness and can expand and awaken our consciousness. It can awaken our Kundalini energy. However, that true awakening is your own work. It's your own process. It's your own commitment. Yeah. And ultimately, a Kundalini awakening is an expansion of awareness. It's an expansion of consciousness, and it's a capacity to perceive and see life's challenges from a different vantage point, and to also move out of those destructive patterns and belief systems. Some of us have that kind of instantly, and our life shifts, forever, and we're carried. However, in my experience all across the board, it still requires your own connection, your own practice, and your own work. Nobody can give that to you. Yeah. You can be supported, you can be guided, you can be held, but you have to do the work. So, flash forward, I was teaching and practicing Yogi Bhajan Kundalini Yoga, and it was kind of like around 2019, I began to kind of feel, something inside of me was just kind of questioning. The questioning kind of ended up opening me up to different situations where I began to hear more and more about Yogi Bhajan's infidelities and discrepancies and abuses. Something about it all was not sitting quite right for me, and I began to kind of shift some of my practice and feel less tied up in kind of the system around it, which felt quite liberating. And then 2020 hit, and the book came out from one of Yogi Bhajan's students who divulged everything, and it set a wave through the Kundalini Yoga community. And at the time, lockdown happened as well. The studio had to close. Everything Yogi Bhajan retreated, and everybody started to kind of evaluate their practice and this lineage. And so I stopped practicing all of the mantras, and I practiced yoga, I practiced some of the pranayamas, really kind of went inward around it, and I also began to search. I did the same thing with Reiki. I began to search for the origins. Well, where did this come from? We heard so many different things about where Bhajan brought this from, and it was always kind of ethereal. There were synchronicities, as happens, and I had actually a client who started this Kundalini Yoga teacher's training in India and I'd never heard about it. I asked her about it, I researched it, and its origins were in the Himalayas, its origins were Vedic, its origins were in Sanskrit mantras, whereas Bhajan Kundalini Yoga was Sikh. And it incorporated Hatha Yoga, restorative yoga, Kriya Yoga, meditation, mantra, gods and goddesses of Hinduism, which I was always connected to as kind of archetypes, Lakshmi and Shiva and Sarasvati. And so it really rang true. And they were offering a teacher's training for the first time online because of lockdown. And I really found that I was blessed because I really couldn't travel to India to take the training. So I took the training, and that was in September of 2020 to 2021. I loved the teachers in my group, and I loved the training. The practices were somewhat similar and yet quite different. There were elements of it which are the warrior breaths that I love, and I'm actually going to do another video where I'll guide you through some of those practices. And I do these every morning. There are elements of the mantras and the meditations that incorporate Sanskrit, and Reiki has a Sanskrit element to it as well from Japan. Buddhism came from India to Japan, so there's elements in the system of Reiki that has some of the Sanskrit in it. So that felt really resonant, and it just felt like it just all fell apart to come together. And Sattva Yoga, I really resonate with. And I'm going to read for you a little bit about what Sattva Kundalini Yoga is. I think it would relay a little bit better. Sattva Yoga, as taught in the Himalayan Yoga Vedantic tradition. It's the only school in the world that offers the pure original Himalayan Yoga Vedantic teachings. Sattva Kundalini and Kriya tradition is a comprehensive approach. It incorporates teachings and techniques that have been known by the yogis of the Himalayan Yoga Vedantic tradition for thousands of years. Sattva Yoga is Sattva Kriya Kundalini, Sattva meditation, Sattva breath work, Sattva knowledge and wisdom, Sattva sacred ritual, Sattva advanced initiation practices, Sattva Hatha and Vinyasa, Sattva partner work, Shiva Shakti, and Sattva Nad mantra. Sattva Yoga Academy are holistic, integrative, and deeply transformative aspects of the human existence. The ever-evolving at the core of the teachings is both ancient and modern, rooted in rich Vedantic and Tantric traditions of the Himalayas. The teachings integrate radical and relevant wisdom with meditation, breathwork techniques from the Sattva Kundalini and Kriya tradition, deepening connection and devotion through Laya, Bhakti, Sufi practices, and the healing power of sound, free movement, Hatha Yoga, and asanas. So, there you have it. It just incorporates it all. And one of the reasons why I really love it, and it is so powerful. So what I want to say about Kundalini Yoga, both Bhajan and Sattva, is that like Reiki, they are amazing practices to support you in day-to-day life, in living more vibrantly, and also support you in this very intense time that we are living here on Earth. Our nervous system, our immune system, our glandular system. There are so many benefits on all those levels, as well as, of course, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And what I've found with Kundalini Yoga, and continue to find, as well as Reiki, is that it is so powerful during those challenges times in our lives, during those really dark times. What I would say about Sattva Yoga versus Yogi Bhajan Kundalini Yoga and the difference between the two is that Sattva Yoga is based in the yogic traditions, the Himalayan Vedic traditions, Vedantic traditions, and have the Sanskrit mantras. Whereas Kundalini Yoga is based in the Sikh tradition and in the Gurmukh mantras, as well as incorporating Kriya Yoga elements that originate in India. The exact origins of Yogi Bhajan's Kriyas is really unclear, whereas Sattva Yoga, you really know where they come from. Another element that's different between Kundalini Yoga by Bhajan and Sattva Yoga is that in the Yogi Bhajan tradition, it was very much all about wearing white, which has a lovely quality to it. You know, I mean, I think it's lovely. I mean, it does elevate your aura, it does elevate your consciousness, it does elevate your energy, but all colors are the colors of the rainbow. So that's one of the things that I love about Sattva Kundalini Yoga, is that you wear whatever you want to wear and you are elevating. I find that both traditions have tremendous benefits, and you have to find your way with them. And I do find that you can incorporate Hatha Yoga and restorative yoga with Sattva Yoga. I find that you can incorporate some of the Bhajan Kriyas that are similar to the Sattva Kriyas into your practice, and they're incredibly beneficial. I hope that this gives you a little window into my background, my education, my training, and a little bit of a window into Sattva Yoga and Yogi Bhajan Kundalini Yoga. I look forward to sharing more with you in upcoming videos. Look for a little video for some of the warrior breaths coming up. I do have a full Kundalini Yoga class that was recorded at the time that I was practicing through the Yogi Bhajan tradition. It's one of those Kriyas that stands alone. I find that class, that course, that video has tremendous benefits. It's really simple, really nourishing, and whether you're new or already trained, it really can be beneficial. So check that out. I'll link it below in description. Of course, if you're inspired, I welcome donations. There's a PayPal button in my descriptions and as well in that video, just to support this content, from continuing to support this channel and growing. If you haven't already, please go ahead, subscribe, like, and comment. Comment below. Let me know your experience with Kundalini Yoga, any questions that you might have, anything that you might want to see me do. I love to hear from you. And also, it just helps the algorithms and YouTube to get these videos out, grow and flourish, and do its service in the world. Wishing you a blessed and beautiful rest of your day or evening. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.